Hello and welcome to Real Sports Overtime. I'm Bryant Gumbel, sitting here alongside Bernie Goldberg, and we're talking about Bernie's piece on education that the NCAA is supposed to provide student athletes, but really isn't. Who's to blame, Bernie, for the situation?
Well, there are those who say the school is to blame because the one function, if you had to pick only one function that a university has, one obligation it has to its students is to provide them with the opportunity to get a good education.
They're in the business of education.
That's really the only business. But if you're also in the football business and the basketball business, which brings in tens of millions of dollars to schools overall, all the schools, a lot more than that, then a lot of these students aren't getting this world-class education, so that's why a lot of people say the schools are to blame.
You didn't mention coaches in your piece. May we assume that they're complicit, that they know what's going on, that they know these guys are not truly being educated?
How short an answer do you want?
I think I know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they have to know. I mean, I'm not saying that they sit there and they say, did we funnel Joe Blow into a gut course? But it's part of the system. Everybody's in on it. It's legal. It's nobody's hiding anything. It's right there above board.
Well, see, this gets back to what you and I have talked about all the time, which is in poll after poll, the public, including the recent one on whether or not athletes should be paid, only 29%, surprisingly, think they should be paid.
Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
But in part, it's because they believe they're getting an education.
Yes, that's exactly it. Now, look, I don't want to come to a conclusion on whether they should get paid because I probably at some point will be doing a story on whether they should get paid, and I don't want to be on the record as having an opinion on that. But the deal is, we educate you, you give us your athletic abilities. If the deal is being broken, if a certain percentage of the students are not really getting an education, if they're being admitted with such low scores in reading and math that they can't possibly do well, but they could get a degree, even though they don't get much of an education, then you could make the case, you broke the deal. I didn't break the deal, you broke the arrangement, therefore, what's left to get paid?
What do you think of this new suit that's being brought that basically says this is restraint of trade, that the colleges and universities have basically decided that your effort is worth the value of a four-year education and that's it?
Well, it's going to be interesting. I don't know that the student athletes are going to succeed. This is part of the one where they want to become, where they say they're employees.
Separate, but part of the
they
same
say
vein.
they're employees.
Right.
There are all sorts of technical matters. Well, if you're employees, did we take taxes out of your wages and all that? So I don't know that they're going to win that one. But you know what? Until a bunch of students get together and say, we're not playing in the Final Four, or we're not playing in the championship football game, I don't see anything coming along that's going to change the current system.
Let me read you one where you and I might disagree as to why they're not getting paid. There are a number of African Americans, according to the poll that we did in conjunction with the folks at Marist. African Americans, 61%, feel that part of the reason why they're not getting paid is because so many of them are black, that the public has basically tuned out their needs. By comparison, 75% of whites polled said race has nothing to do with it.
Okay, let's start with the obvious. Black people and white people have different histories and therefore are going to come very often to different conclusions on cultural matters. Okay, having said that, and also having said that race is the third rail in American culture, so you have to be an idiot to even want to talk about it, but
I asked.
But I'm an idiot, so here goes.
I asked.
Most of the athletes on campus, forget about revenue or non-revenue.
You can't.
Well, but let's just forget it for a second. The hockey team is almost all white. The baseball team is white. The golf team is white. You know, the girls, women's softball team is white. Most of the athletes who aren't getting paid are white. So do I think that race is a factor? Personally, I do not think that race is a factor. I think the NCAA has this idea in their heads, and I think it's an honestly held idea that they're amateurs. even though everybody's getting paid but the athletes. They're amateurs, so we don't want to pay any of these amateurs.
Bernie, I disagree. I think if it were white athletes who were being asked to pay a severe price in order to fund non-revenue producing sports that basically benefited African Americans, this thing would be turned on its head and the public would say, oh no, for God's sake, these athletes have to be paid.
As I said at the outset, different histories, we come to different conclusions on the same topic.
And what do they say? Just because you're paranoid doesn't mean you're wrong. All right, Bernie, thanks very much. We hope you enjoyed Real Sports Overtime. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can catch a new episode of Real Sports every month right here on HBO.